So, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see all of you. So, today's topic is going to be discipline and the opposite of discipline, meaning doing whatever we want. And the right causes for attainment on the path. So first of all, what is discipline? Discipline is, in my opinion, doing what is right, whether you want it or not. So say, for example, you wanted to attain peace of mind. And the causes for the attainment of peace of mind are that you show up and you practice every day to still the thoughts and to let the mind come to rest. And if you do that over and over again, combined with a good daily practice in the middle of your daily activities, then the result of that will be peace of mind, the attainment of peace of mind. So let's say this is what you want. However, within your being, within your psyche, there's many other forces present too. There's many different wantings too. So there's not only a part of you that wants to attain peace of mind, but there's also a part of you that wants to have a lot of sex. There's a part of you that wants to have a lot of sensual pleasures. There's a part of you that wants to be intellectually stimulated. There's a part of you that wants to travel. Yes? So these other parts of the psyche that are in conflict with your main desire, the attainment of peace of mind, need to be dealt with. And the way of dealing with them is, for example, through discipline, meaning you're training yourself to do what is right, meaning the causes for attainment of peace of mind, you need to put them in. Those causes are right. They will lead to the attainment of peace of mind, whether you want to do them or not. You do them because they are required to attain what it is that is good for you. So discipline has a lot in common with actually self-love. Discipline is perhaps the most underrated form of self-love that there is. It means you're actually standing up for yourself, doing what needs to be done so that you can be healthy, happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. The opposite of discipline would be doing whatever you feel like doing whatever you want to do. And this is something we all already do most of the time. We follow our desires, our impulses, our wishes. If we feel hot, we go into the cool room. If it's getting too cold, we go back out into the heat again. If you're hungry, you eat. Right? And societies all over the world make the fulfillment of our various desires more and more easy, more and more convenient. It's fast and easy nowadays, especially in Thailand here. You can just order some food online if you like. It's very easy, very convenient. Yes. Which kind of creates this type of paradise because you can simply just snap your finger and your wishes are fulfilled. For example, having an air condition, you have a remote control for it. You don't even need to stand up anymore. It's so convenient, you just press the remote control button. Everything is geared towards more convenience. Whatever product is invented, it's already supposed to promise more convenience. It's more easy, more fast. It will fulfill your endless desires for sense pleasures. And it will protect you against having to experience discomfort on the level of the senses. That's what this entire world is about, really. It's the seeking of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. And we're constantly doing that. So we don't want to experience pain, so what we do is we fight against it. And we want to experience pleasure, so what we do is we chase after it. That's day in, day out activity for most of us. But if that would actually be giving us what we really want, then we would all be happy and satisfied already. But it's not the case. In fact, in countries where people do have a lot of access to a lot of conveniences and so forth, people are quite unhappy. They're still stressed out. So it doesn't solve the fundamental problem of stress. Having easy access to conveniences doesn't solve our problem. Doing whatever we want or avoiding what we don't want doesn't solve the fundamental problem of having to experience suffering and stress. So discipline means kind of like standing up for yourself and doing what is right so that your true wish is fulfilled. If you wouldn't have discipline, you'd just do whatever it is that you want to do. But you wouldn't actually get the fulfillment of your truest desires, your deepest desires, which is the desire for true happiness, the desire for the end of suffering. Then you'd just bounce around, you'd like a ping pong ball. You'd just go from stuff to stuff to stuff to stuff to stuff to stuff to stuff, but that's not what you really want. And your heart knows that. Seems almost like I'm telling you what it is that you really want right now, right? I'm sitting here, I'm telling you, let me tell you what it is that you really want. But there's one thing that we absolutely certainly all share in our desire. On the level of the senses, it's expressed as the desire for pleasure and the avoidance of pain. But much deeper than that, there is a desire for true happiness, meaning an end of suffering, an end of stress altogether. This is what we all really want. This is why we move our body when we're uncomfortable. This is why our mind is constantly thinking, ruminating, trying to plot something new, just trying to get to a point where you can finally go, now I do not have to worry anymore at all. I don't have to be afraid anymore. I don't have to plan anymore. I don't have to think anymore. I can just relax and it's okay and it's good. We're all running for that constantly. Every single cell in our body is running for that. Running away from suffering towards happiness. But we live in a world where people are quite misguided when it comes to the actual causes of true happiness. And the actual causes of the end of suffering, we don't understand them. We assume that the end of suffering can be found by shifting material things around. But that's not true, obviously. We have all shifted stuff around our entire life, right? Including the stuff of the mind. Ideas, hopes, fears, dreams, all that stuff. Constantly shifting things around. But the fundamental problem has not really been addressed. You're still unsatisfied, aren't you? Maybe right now you feel quite happy and feel quite good, so you tell me, oh, no, I'm quite satisfied. I tell you, wait. And you will have proof. No, you're not actually satisfied. You were just enjoying a temporary relief, like all of us do from time to time. But your fundamental problem hasn't been solved. You're still unsatisfied. Just wait. If you're truly satisfied, it means you're truly satisfied, period. You're satisfied no matter what. If you're truly happy, it also would mean exactly the same thing. You're happy no matter what. That means you're actually happy. Otherwise, you just have arranged stuff in a way that you temporarily have a little less suffering. So it feels nice. But the fundamental problem hasn't been addressed. So if you stand up for yourself, if you have your own back, and if you do what it actually takes to go against the grain of the world, to lift yourself out of it, that requires discipline. This is what discipline is. In order to truly be happy, you have to go a totally different way. Let me give you this example, okay? It's one of my favorite examples. Think of yourself as being attached to a large wheel. And that wheel is turning without ever stopping. When you come to the lower section of the wheel, that's where you experience plenty of suffering. It's nasty conditions. There's people who beat you, spit on you, talk badly to you, and so forth. It's stinky, it's swampy, it's disgusting. Then you come up on the other side, coming into the middle section of the wheel. It's kind of neutral, nothing much going on. Then after a while you go up, coming to the top half of the wheel, and it's really pleasant, super nice. There's people giving you massage, good food, pleasant conversations, nice views, good smells, fantastic. And then you go back down on the other side, and it's kind of neutral, and then you come back down to the swampy part of the wheel. And that wheel doesn't ever stop. It goes around all the time. Now I wanted to ask you, where do you think is your attention? Where would your attention be? What would you be focused on? For most people, the answer is, well, I'd be focused on the upper part. I want to get up there. And as you go down, well, then my focus would shift. It would be apprehensive. It would be terrified of what's down there. So my focus would be down there. Anxiously. Okay? So these two forces are called hope and fear. As you're moving up on the wheel, you're hopeful. Oh wow, it's going to be very nice very soon. I can already see it. I can already smell it. It's going to be awesome. You've bought your plane tickets. It's just a couple of days now. Oh yeah, holidays are coming up. It's going to be great. You're looking forward to that higher realm that you are desperately trying to get to. And once the wheel goes down on the other side, then you start to sense like, oh, the pleasure is finished now. Now it's going to go back into cold, rainy London, let's say. Oh my God. Out of Thailand, back into rainy London, and back to work. Back to the old routines. Oh no, I hate it. So what you now feel is fear, apprehension. I don't want to go back. But you have to. The wheel keeps spinning. It just keeps going. So now what do you think is it that most people overlook when it comes to that wheel? Well, let me ask you a different question first. Knowing this wheel now, what's your feeling about being attached to this wheel? Is that nice? Is that great, being attached to that wheel? I mean, it's got the whole pleasant part, right? It's nice up there. Would you like to go for another round? And then another one, 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 and then another one ad infinitum. Is that what you want? Does that sound exciting and nice to you? like a fun park. You're going to have a whole lot of horrible experiences ahead and a whole lot of pleasant experiences. Are you in for that? You want that? Do you choose to be on there? I would ask myself, what's the point of that? Why the heck would I want to be on a wheel that just keeps spinning from pleasure to pain endlessly? That doesn't seem exciting at all. It seems rather boring. And actually, due to the presence of pain and suffering, it seems actually quite terrifying to me. If it wasn't for the pain and suffering, for the potential of me being absolutely miserable, for the potential of the experience of hell, if that wasn't there, okay, I'd be all right with it. But the problem is that there is a potential for hell in this wheel. And you just never know when it's going to hit. And it could hit like this. And we're in a world of suffering, misery, pain, illness, disease, alone, abandoned, rejected. You name it. This is potentially right there. And we're all potentially victimized by that fact. To me, this is terrifying. It's enough reason to focus on what it is that attaches me to the wheel. Why am I attached to this wheel? What do you think? What is it that binds me to the wheel? What could that be? Some thick rope, chains. Is someone forcing me to be on that wheel? Is there some cruel God that puts me on there and just lets me spin around for all eternity? What is it that? Ignorance, you'd say, would be that which ties me to the wheel, yes. That's definitely one hand, yes. So the image that I use is what ties you to that wheel is not a chain, not a rope, not anything. You are actually holding it. That's the problem. So why would you hold that? Well, hoping and fearing is exactly holding. That's what it is. You're holding onto the wheel, hoping for happiness, and you're holding onto the wheel, fearing pain.
Otherwise, for wanting and not wanting.
Yes, that's correct. So craving as the cause of suffering and being on that wheel as the experience of suffering. But the problem here is for most people, being on the wheel actually doesn't seem all that bad. Unless you're having a really bad experience in your life right now. Someone died, something happened that, like you're in a transitional phase or something like that, and you're terrified of life. Well, then maybe you may actually see, oh my goodness, I'm not in a good situation. Maybe I should do something about it. And that's when most people actually come to meditation. They come not because they're very happy. They come because they suffer to some degree, and it makes them curious. Could that actually work to deal with my suffering? And so every single cell in our bodies and minds actually wants to be on that wheel. It's the entire force of the world. It's the devil's game. The devil's game is to keep you hopeful and fearful, attached to the wheel at all times. And he does that excellently. In such a way that you feel, no, it's not the devil, it's me. I just want to be happy. I just don't want to suffer. And the devil is like, yeah, go around for one more round, spin one more time. I'll show you paradise. Promise. And then you forget again. And then it starts all over again. You forget that there is no such thing as paradise. There's just round and round and round and round and round. So we need to see the bigger picture. And because every cell in our bodies and minds has such a pull to be attached to this wheel, it requires discipline to get off, to stop holding. Because otherwise, I tell you, you wouldn't do a thing. Even if you were to realize, oh, Jesus, I'm actually stuck to this wheel, it'd be better to get off it. You wouldn't have the power that it takes to actually stop and let go if it wasn't for discipline. If you were following your desires, your hopes and fears, your wanting and your not wanting, the opposite of discipline, you wouldn't get off the wheel. You would, by definition, stay attached to it. So that's why discipline is required. It is required to teach ourselves to do something that is good for ourselves, whether we feel like it or not. Whether you like it or not. Whether it rains or not. Whether there is sunshine or not. We have to get into this kind of grind so that you develop a momentum and enough force so you can drop. You can let go of the wheel. You couldn't let go of the wheel if that's the only thing you have. If the only thing you have are the pleasures of the world and the pleasures of the senses, you'd never be able to jump off. You need to have something that is more solid, that is more powerful and better. You need to outwit the devil at his game. And the devil's game is just do as you please. Just do what you feel like. Enjoy life. Close your eyes. Go right back to sleep. Enjoy. And it's so nice to just go, yeah, you're right. I deserved that. And off you go for another round. And then you end up complaining, why did I get into this? Who got me into this? Well, it's her fault. It's his fault. No, you're holding onto the wheel. It's your fault. No one forced you to get born. No one forced you to take another round. No one does that to you. No one forces you to suffer. You didn't have to. But it's our constant decisions that we make day in and day out that always lead us back round to the same old familiar suffering, round after round after round. As Paul said, it's ignorance that makes that possible. It means we don't see. Here's a fun little fact. The original word that has been translated as the popular word sin actually came from archery. It's a term that has been used by archers, and it means missing the mark. So you're pulling your arrow and you shoot and you miss the mark. That is the word sin, the original meaning. You're missing the mark, meaning your focus is not on God in the Christian terminology. But what is God's name? God's name is Yahweh. What does that mean? It means I am. So because you don't know yourself, because your focus is lost in the world and not folding back in to the root of consciousness, your attention is scattered, you're missing the mark. You're focusing on the wrong thing, which is your senses. So if you're lost in the world of your senses, you cannot meet God. It's impossible. In order to meet God, we have to retreat our attention. The word attention comes from Latin as well, attendare, right? Which means to stretch out towards. So attention means it is consciousness, awareness, stretching out to an object of the senses. So that means you're missing the mark. That's sinning. You're a sinner. You're born a sinner. The original sin means you're missing the mark. You turn away from God. out into the world of your senses. And then you get lost in there, hoping to find paradise. But you're already fallen out of paradise. Your attention is already scattered all over the place, ruled by hope and fear, spinning around and around and around, up in the devil's game. So how to get out of it? Well, then return the attention back to its source. Question is, where is the source of your attention? Where is your attention emerging from? That's where you find God. And that's where the wheel ends. This is where there is peace. This is where there is an end of suffering. But it is not in things. And in order to fold your attention round back, two things are required. One is discipline, the other is grace. You can't enter God's kingdom if God doesn't want. And it's not that God is some sort of person that's out there thinking about whether you deserve it or not. But it's the great law of everything. So as you begin to turn your attention around, you start to focus on what it is that is holding onto the wheel. You're using your discipline to understand your true situation and your true desire, and then for once you start following it. You're coming back home, like the lost son that has returned back home to his father. It's the same kind of story. It's very symbolic kind of stories. So this is the thing with the spiritual path, right? If you just do whatever you want, if you just follow the pleasure, if you just, happy-go-lucky, it can't work. The same goes for the other extreme. If you punish yourself, you're just constantly brutalizing yourself onto the path, forcing to meditate. It can't work either. Impossible. Both are extremes that ought to be avoided. That's why the Buddha talked about the middle path. You need to have some middle ground where you're approaching your goal with the right discipline and the right ease, the right relaxation. Then you have a good chance. Developing that, cultivating that, that's our everyday job. That's what we do. So you've got to look at yourself and honestly think, well, where am I stuck? What's my personal problem? And then honestly reflect, well, how could I overcome this? How can I approach overcoming this? And where do I lack discipline? Where could I use more discipline? And then you learn to become more disciplined simply by being more disciplined. What's the cause of discipline? Well, discipline. It's also the antidote to laziness. What's the cause of laziness? Laziness. The direct cause of it. The direct cause of discipline is discipline. The more discipline you cultivate, the more disciplined you become. Besides that, it will give you a host of worldly benefits too. You want to be better at your job. You want to have better relationships. All that requires discipline. I have a good relationship with my wife because we're both disciplined in what we're doing and in our dealings with one another. The discipline is to, for example, hold your tongue back if you want to make that snappy remark. That requires discipline. It's much more easy to do, to prove to her that I was right. But is it wise? Is it kind? Is it useful? Perhaps not. So it requires discipline to cut that off. It's a problem if you also educate and raise children, for example, and they have no discipline. Like you let them do whatever they want. Then they will never learn in their life to actually stand up for themselves and do what's good for them later. Then they will just do whatever they feel like. Right? So it's those are blessed who had parents who showed them, no, right now you're going to do that. Not, okay, you want to have a motorbike. Here, Here you go. Oh, you want to play PlayStation for 12 hours non-stop? Of course. You don't want to go to school today? Sure. Then the child will grow up and just be like, unfit for life. That will be unfit for a society. They won't be able to work. They won't be able to produce, create anything. They've never learned to endure. They've never learned to actually face their problems and deal with them or through them. So yeah, discipline is very much needed. It's a very, very important quality to cultivate and to have. Another great outcome of discipline is self-respect, actually. It's another thing. If we don't respect ourselves, why not? Well, because we're limp. We don't do what's good for ourselves. How could we respect ourselves? Like, how could you respect someone that's abusing you, that doesn't help you, doesn't stand up for you? So in the same way, we can't respect ourselves if we don't follow our higher desires. There's no respect. It's like, I want to get up. I want to be the guy that gets up at 5 a.m. every morning, doing an hour of meditation and a bit of yoga before I get to start my work. But if I don't follow through on that, I keep disappointing myself day in, day out, then the problem of that is what? I have no respect for myself. I'm that guy that constantly says, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to do something. It's 5 a.m. in the morning, I'm not getting up, I'm not doing my meditation, then I disappoint myself. I have no respect because I lack the discipline to actually follow through with something that would be good for myself. More structure, good habits, healthy, etc. And I know it's good for me, so I should be doing it. Sometimes it's a burden to be a grown-up adult because you are in charge of your life. There's nobody telling you what to do anymore. That's a problem sometimes. Because sometimes we're unable to tell ourselves more efficiently what we should be doing and then follow through with it. So that's what discipline is. Not that I'm really great at discipline, so I'm here sitting on a throne of discipline, teaching you all how to be more disciplined. But this is primarily also to remind myself that this is a virtue that is good to develop, good to cultivate. All right, guys. Oh yeah, sorry for keeping you. Thank you very much for coming. You have a good night and a nice weekend.